resembling a cloud will cause Jonathan Casper to faint. Jonathan, a quiet middle-aged professor, suffers from an odd form of epilepsy. Seeing the shape of a cloud, a cumulus, its appearance like a magnolia tree in bloom, a stratus as bleary as a pigeon startled to flight, or a cirrus with its vague ghost-like veil, and he will immediately collapse, his heart beating irregularly in perfect terror, his breath slowing to a whisper, his arms and legs going weak. Today it happens when the family goes to the zoo. Behind the wheel of the ancient silver Volvo, Jonathan has forgotten to take his anti-seizure medication, and because of this, the atom-sized world of his family will soon be upset. Madeline, his wife, doesn't seem to have noticed that anything might be wrong. She looks happy sitting in the passenger seat, staring out the window. Their teenage daughters, Amelia and Thisbe, are both silent in the back seat until... "Dad, I was thinking," Thisbe, the youngest, calls out. "Yes?" "I don't think I want to see the lions or the tigers. They make me want to cry." Jonathan raises his eyebrows, scratching at his beard, looking at his wife to respond. He then glances in the rearview mirror and sees Thisbe, who is 14 years old, wearing a plaid outfit and red sweater, her brown hair hanging in her dark eyes, looking sulky. "You don't have to see any animals you don't want to," Madeline says, "but I'll bet you change your mind when we get there. I don't know if we should go to the zoo at all. I think it's cruel." Thisbe says this, definitely moody. "It's not cruel. It's educational," Jonathan argues. "I used to go to the zoo with my father all the time. It's normal. It's what normal families do. They go to the zoo and they tell their dad how lucky they are for being their daughters. Then they make up songs about how great their dad is. Doesn't that sound like fun?" Thisbe just huffs, turning back to pout, staring out the window. "I don't think God likes the idea of zoos," she says. Jonathan smiles. Beside him, his wife shakes her head and then rolls her eyes. Thisbe, a high school freshman raised without any religious background of any kind, has begun to make bold arguments on behalf of God. To Jonathan, it only seems like a silly, though perfectly natural thing for a teenage girl to do, struggling to find answers to the compromising mysteries of her young life. "I don't want to go to the zoo either," Amelia adds. Jonathan frowns, glancing in the rearview mirror once more. Amelia, a junior in high school, age 17, is wearing that awful black beret again. Amelia has recently declared herself a Marxist, though she is white and whiter than most, with her mother's pale skin, chestnut hair, and sad, haunting blue eyes. Amelia has begun to wear t-shirts featuring the likenesses of Che Guevara and Malcolm X and others with slogans like "No more prisons." Sitting at their dinner table in their expensive little home, Amelia has begun to mention revolution, with strange facts like, "Did you know the CIA totally admitted to killing members of the Black Panthers and nobody even cared?" "I think the zoo is totally bourgeois," Amelia says. Jonathan smirks, silently pleased by his oldest daughter's growing political intelligence. He's also a little amused at her slight mispronunciation of the word. "Well, we're going to the zoo today, guys. It was your turn to decide what we did last weekend. Besides, I heard they have a baby tree sloth. Wouldn't you like to see that? A baby tree sloth? That sounds pretty awesome. Or maybe you're afraid of doing something pretty awesome." "No," Thisbe says. "No," Amelia says. "We could go to the aquarium," Madeline suggests in a whisper. "We're not going to the aquarium. We're going to the zoo today. That's what's been decided. We're not going to change plans now. We stick to the plans. That's what winners do. They stick to plans." "This family's like some sort of oligarchy," Amelia comments. "Oh, great word choice," her mother says with a grin. "This family's not an oligarchy," Jonathan adds. "It's a republic. Go look it up." "Oh my God," Amelia sharply interrupts. "I forgot to tell you guys. I figured out what I'm going to do for my science project this year. I decided to try and build a bomb." Jonathan does not know what to say to this. He turns and looks over at Madeline, who's also momentarily silent. Amelia keeps on talking. "It's like to prove how easy it is to make an explosive device and everything, like how there's all these instructions online, and you can use like cleaning products and everything. I need you to sign a permission slip for me." "Amelia, why don't you decide to do something a little more constructive?" "It is constructive. I'm constructing a bomb." "No," Madeline says, smiling. "Why not make something that isn't destructive? I bet it would be a little more challenging." "I'm already doing that," she says. "I'm making a movie for my history class." "What's your movie about?" Jonathan asks. Capitalism mostly, like how there's all these different classes of people and how we need to overcome it. Well, that sounds like something, Jonathan says. The family is quiet for some time after that, the Beatles playing Yellow Submarine, the sound of the open windows and the city hurrying past. Madeline turns in her seat and sees Thisbe sitting there with her eyes closed, her hands held before her like a tiny steeple. Thisbe, are you praying back there? She asks. Jonathan gives a look to his wife, who simply shakes her head. No, I was just listening to the music, Thisbe says, her face going bright red. At the zoo that day, the family is sad to discover that many of the animals have mysteriously begun to die. The glass cages all echo with silent grief and blank sunlight. The jungle cats perched low in their plastic trees are the only ones that seem unaffected. Thisbe still refuses to go into the lion house to look at the lions. She says she cannot stand watching them pace around their tiny cages. Amelia rolls her eyes, yawning, bored by her sisters complaining. Well, I'd like to go see the lions even if nobody else does, she says. Well, I'm not going, Thisbe mumbles. I'll have nightmares. I'll wait here with Thisbe, Jonathan offers. Well, you guys can meet us by the food court. Maybe you can go get a snow cone or something, Madeline suggests. I don't want a snow cone. I'm going to pretend like I'm not even here, Thisbe whispers. Jonathan frowns. I was hoping today we could maybe act like a family and walk around the zoo together, but I guess that's hoping for too much. Maybe I can join up with one of these other families. They look like they understand what being part of a family means. Dad, you're so gay, Amelia says at the side. I just want to look at the groundhogs, Thisbe says. That's all I want to see. Well, we can go look at them and maybe the baby tree storm, Jonathan suggests, if you like. Whatever, I don't care, Thisbe whispers, still in a huff. I'll go see the lions and tigers with Amelia, Madeline says, and then we can meet back here at 1:30 and get some ice cream. Jonathan scratches at his beard. That's what you'd all like, but I just want to go on the record saying I think it's pretty pathetic we can't walk around the zoo together. I think whoever built this zoo would be pretty upset with us right now. I think whoever invented the idea of zoos would be pretty unhappy. We'll see you at 1:30, Madeline says, and grabbing her oldest daughter's hand, they hurry off, both of them rolling their eyes at him. Jonathan thinks about maybe putting his arm around Thisbe's shoulder, but the way she's standing there frowning, her shoulders hunched up, her chin sunken into her chest, he decides not to. He begins walking, Thisbe pounding beside him, glaring at the other families. How about the buffalo? Do you want to go see them? No, they're all crowded in there. It's too sad. Okay, no buffaloes. What about the seals? The seals are right over there. Fine, I don't care, she says in a snit, and off they go. Approaching the enormous seal tank, inside they see two slick-skinned seals as they pedal through the water, their noses skimming along the surface. They have spots on their heads, Thisbe whispers, pointing to them, like leopards. Jonathan glances over at his daughter and is surprised. Is she smiling? It looks like she's almost smiling. I've never noticed that before, Jonathan says, staring at her dimples, which he has forgotten even exist. They both lean against the blue metal railing, staring down into the dark silver pool. Jonathan turns and sees Thisbe has closed her eyes. Her eyelashes are fluttering and she's whispering something to herself. Thisbe, honey, what are you doing? Nothing. What are you saying to the seals? Nothing. I was just praying for them, that they don't die. Thisbe, honey, you don't have to pray for them. Thisbe nods. Together, they walk on in silence. At the zoo, the family does meet up at the aforementioned time, does get ice cream, and all together does head to the reptile house. There, Jonathan stands beside his oldest daughter, Amelia, both of them staring down into the crocodile pond. He glances out of the corner of his eye and looks at her. She's taller now, thin, and has a beaded hemp necklace on. Jonathan has never even noticed her wearing jewelry before. Dad? Yes? Can I ask you a question? Okay. Do you ever feel like the rest of the world is totally stupid? How do you mean, kiddo? I don't know, like everybody. Like people on TV, and everyone at school, like everybody. Like everyone just seems so stupid to me. Well, like who? I don't know, everybody. I started making a list of all the stupid people I hate. You did? Yeah? Well, who's on the list? Rupert Murdoch? Okay. Who else? Don Rumsfeld? Who else? I don't know, Charlton Heston, Britney Spears, Madonna, Rush Limbaugh. How many people are on your list right now, Amelia? I don't know, 43? At the zoo, the family heads into the sweltering shadows of the great ape house. The building is dark and heavy with the stink of urine from the primates. Thisbe and Amelia hurry ahead while Jonathan takes his time, watching a pair of chattering chimpanzees groom each other. All of a sudden, his wife takes a step beside him and kisses his cheek.
What was that for?
He asks. I don't know, I just felt like doing it. I'm glad. Are we going to talk about last night? I don't know, he says. What happened last night? Where did you go? I woke up and I looked at the clock and you were gone. I was in the den working, looking for your giant squid, huh? Jonathan nods and takes his wife's hand. They stroll quietly past the orangutans, then the mandrills, and stop before the enormous gorillas. Jonathan turns to his wife and says, Thisbe was praying for the seals. In a whisper, Madeline says, she's so fucking weird, I don't even know what to do with her. She rolls her brown eyes as she says this, and Jonathan immediately thinks of his two daughters, realizing exactly where they've gotten their own eye rolling from. Okay, don't freak out about this, but Amelia and I were talking, and she asked me about oral sex.
What did she ask?
I don't know, when I first did it, how old I was, that kind of thing.
Well, what did you say?
I told her the truth. You did. Yes? Well, that's not what I would have said. I know that's not what you would have said. Well, has she done it yet, or is she just making plans? I think she's just making plans. With who? Jonathan asked. I don't think anyone in particular. I think she's just starting to think about it. Okay, wow, Jonathan says. I don't think I want you to tell me about those kinds of things. Too bad, Madeline whispers. Jonathan nods, grabbing her hand. His wife looks so beautiful, so unfamiliar all of a sudden. She kisses him, this time on the mouth, right there in the shadows of the gorilla exhibit. Jonathan feels the soft pressure of his wife against his chest. Suddenly they're laughing. They stop and hear Thisbe and Amelia up ahead in front of the baboons arguing about something. An important note. Jonathan and Madeline, though happy now, have been separated once nearly 8 years ago at what Jonathan felt was a critical moment in his search for the prehistoric giant squid, journeying to Norway to complete his fieldwork. It was done very academically, with Jonathan explaining the reasons he was leaving in a detailed presentation before his two daughters, which at one point involved some sort of chart. And then Madeline sending messages for Jonathan through the two girls, written as very polite memos from Madeline to Jonathan regarding informing the girls of how sorry you are. This brief separation only lasted 10 months, though over the last few decades, Jonathan has been absent more times than his wife or his daughters would care to remember. What Jonathan has missed while attending various academic symposia or voyaging to the most remote quarters of the ocean for critical research trips, Amelia's first tooth, her first word, a number of Thisbe's piano recitals, Madeline's broken arm, Madeline's involvement in a serious car accident, Madeline's broken ankle. Today, the zoo has not been much fun. As Jonathan is backing the Volvo out of its spot at a meter, Madeline is staring out the passenger window. Amelia is complaining that the air conditioner is too cold, and Thisbe is asking if they can please never go to the zoo again. As the enormous brownstones of Lincoln Park rush past, a gigantic white SUV cruises around a parked car, swerving onto the wrong side of the street, speeding head-on towards the Volvo. At that moment, Jonathan stares at the blur of the SUV, small globes of sunlight flickering from the sky, the white sports utility vehicle rising inevitably before him, and then his brain promptly names it, though incorrectly, a cloud. As soon as he thinks he understands what he's seeing, he immediately begins to feel very strange, his heart beating terrifically loud, and then he knows it, he's having a seizure. His left arm feels stiff, then his right, then he's having a hard time breathing. His heart begins pounding even louder, his arms feel lifeless and heavy, he cannot hold on to the steering wheel. As the Volvo collides with the SUV, Jonathan tries to say something, to cry or shout, but all he can do is mumble. Metal meets metal amid the sound of cracking glass. Thisbe screams in the back seat, and then Jonathan hits the brakes, then the gas, then the brakes again. Everything goes silent. The family is quiet, and then Madeline is turning around asking if everyone is okay. Everyone says yes. Everyone except for Jonathan. Jonathan opens his blue eyes, feeling his vision losing its focus, the world going hazy. He begins to tremble, and then he begins to convulse. Madeline is holding his hand, trying to keep him still, saying, "Oh God, don't do this to me, Jonathan. Don't do this to me." And suddenly, everything becomes bright and then lovely. The family does not go to the hospital. Jonathan says he's all right and refuses to get into the ambulance. He's more embarrassed than hurt, his face red with humiliation, which is shaded by his blonde beard. When they pull into their garage, Madeline behind the wheel puts the Volvo in park and then says, "Girls, I need to talk to your father alone for a minute." Amelia and Thisbe are uncharacteristically obedient, scared to death maybe, and they hurry out. Jonathan, anticipating an argument, grabs his wife's hand, trying to smile, trying to let her know that everything is all right, but she will not look him in the eye. Instead, she stares straight ahead, holding the steering wheel. "I want to know the truth. Did you take your medicine today or not?" Jonathan must first try to think how to answer. "Did you take it or not, Jonathan?" "No, but honey, it was a simple mistake. I was busy this morning looking at some data from Japan." "When was the last time you took it?" "I don't know, 2 days ago, I think. I've been wrapped up in the sonar reports," and Madeline quickly looks away. Jonathan tries to take her hand, but she's still unmoving. "I was fine all day. It was just an accident. It could have happened. You have no idea. You have no idea how it feels, Jonathan. You didn't have to see the look on Thisbe's face. You promised me this would never happen again. You promised me." "Honey, I won't do this anymore," she says. "I can't." "It was only, I don't have anything else to say to you right now," Madeline whispers and hurries out of the car. Jonathan sits there in the passenger seat in the dark of his garage, holding his face in his hands. "Damn," he mutters. "Damn, damn, damn." The argument is not resolved, will not be resolved by the time Madeline goes to bed. Jonathan stands beside her in the dark, trying to summon some words, an apology, something appropriate, but all he can do is mutter her name. "Madeline. Madeline." But Madeline doesn't answer him. She has become a white pile of pillows and blankets. He nods after some time and then quietly steps down the stairs to the cramped, disorganized den where his papers and maps and charts have been left scattered about the room. He lies on the cluttered sofa, closing his eyes, listening to the empty sounds of the house, the drip of the kitchen faucet, the wind whining against the windows, the dishes settling in the sink. He lies there for a long time, holding his breath, waiting for the echo of Madeline as she tiptoes down the hall, for the sound of her feet against the tile, for the shaky warmth of her voice, for the touch of her kiss upon his forehead, but for some reason, it does not come. Thanks so much.